Chapter 4 of Babbitt. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Mike Vendetti, MikeVendetti.com. Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis. Chapter 4. It was a morning of artistic creation. 15 minutes after the purple prose of Babbitt's form letter, Chester Kirby Laylock, the resident salesman at Glen Oriole, came in to report a sale and submit an advertisement. Babbitt disapproved of Laylock, who sang in choirs and was merry at home over games of hearts and old maid. He had a tenor voice, wavy chestnut hair, and a mustache like a camel's hair brush. Babbitt considered it excusable in a family man to growl, "Seen this new picture of the kid? Husky little devil, huh?" But Laylock's domestic confidences were as bubbling as a girl's. "Say, I think I got a peach of an ad for the Glen, Mr. Babbitt. Why don't we try something in poetry? Honest, it'd have wonderful pulling power. Listen: 'Mid pleasures and palaces wherever you may roam, just provide the little bride, and we'll provide the home.' Do you get it? See? Like Home Sweet Home, don't you?"
Yes, yes, hell yes, of course I get it. But I think we better use something more dignified and forceful, like 'We lead, others follow,' or eventually 'Why not now?' Course I believe in using poetry and humor and all that junk when it turns the trick, but with a high-class restricted development like the Glen, we better stick to the more dignified approach. See how I mean? Well, I guess that's all this morning, Chet."
2. By a tragedy familiar to the world of art, the April enthusiasm of Chet Laylock served only to stimulate the talent of the older craftsman, George F. Babbitt. He grumbled to Stanley Graff,
"That tan-colored voice of Chet's gets on my nerves."
Yet he was aroused, and in one swoop he wrote,
"Do you respect your loved ones? When the last sad rites of bereavement are over, do you know for certain you've done your best for their departed? You haven't, unless they lie in the Cemetery Beautiful, Linden Lane, the only strictly up-to-date burial place in or near Zenith, where exquisitely gardened plots look from daisy-dotted hill slopes across the smiling fields of Dorchester. Sole agents, Babbitt Thompson Realty Company, Reeves Building." He rejoiced, "I guess that'll show Chan Mott and his weedy old Wildwood Cemetery something about modern merchandising."
3. He sent Matt Penniman to the recorder's office to dig out the names of the owners of houses which were displaying for rent signs of other brokers. He talked to a man who desired to lease a store building for a pool room. He ran over the list of home leases which were about to expire. He sent Thomas Baywaters, a streetcar conductor who played at real estate in spare time, to call on side street prospects who were unworthy the strategies of Stanley Graff. But he had spent his credulous excitement of creation, and these routine details annoyed him. One moment of heroism he had in discovering a new way of stopping smoking. He stopped smoking at least once a month. He went through it like the solid citizen he was, admitted the evils of tobacco, courageously made resolves, laid out plans to check the vice, tapered off his allowance of cigars, and expounded the pleasures of virtuousness to every one he met. He did everything, in fact, except stop smoking. 2 months before, by ruling out a schedule, noting down the hour, the minute of each smoke, and ecstatically increasing the intervals between smokes, he had brought himself down to 3 cigars a day. Then he had lost the schedule. A week ago he had invented a system of leaving his cigar case and cigarette box in an unused drawer at the bottom of the correspondence file in the outer office.
"I'll just naturally be ashamed to go poking in there all day long, making a fool of myself before my own employees," he reasoned.
By the end of 3 days he was trained to leave his desk, walk to the file, take out and light a cigar, without knowing that he was doing it. This morning it was revealed to him that it had been too easy to open the file. Lock it. That was a thing. Inspired, he rushed out and locked up his cigars, his cigarettes, and even his box of safety matches, and the key to the file drawer he hid in his desk. But the crusading passion of it made him so tobacco hungry that he immediately recovered the key, walked with forbidding dignity to the file, took out a cigar and a match. But only one match. If old cigar goes out, it'll by golly have to stay out. Later, when the cigar did go out, he took one more match from the file, and when a buyer and a seller came in for a conference at 11:30, naturally he had to offer them cigars. His conscience protested, "Why, you're smoking with them." But he bullied it. "Ah, shut up. I'm busy now." Of course, by and by. There was no by and by, yet his belief that he had crushed the unclean habit made him feel noble and very happy. When he called up Paul Riesling, he was in his moral splendor, unusually eager. He was fonder of Paul Riesling than any one on earth, except himself and his daughter Tinka. They had been classmates, roommates in the State University, but always he thought of Paul Riesling, with his dark slimness, his precisely parted hair, his nose glasses, his hesitant speech, his moodiness, his love of music, as a younger brother, to be petted and protected. Paul had gone into his father's business after graduation. He was now a wholesaler and small manufacturer of prepared paper roofing, but Babbitt strenuously believed and lengthily announced to the world of good fellows that Paul could have been a great violinist or painter or writer.
Why, say, the letters that boy sent me on his trip to the Canadian Rockies, they just absolutely make you see the place as if you were standing there. Believe me, he could have given any of those bloomin' authors a whale of a run for their money.
Yet on the telephone he said only,
"South 343. No, 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 I said south. South 343. Say, operator, what the dickens is the trouble? Can't you get me South 343? Why, certainly they'll answer. Oh, hello, 343? Want to speak to Mr. Riesling. Mr. Babbitt talking. Hello, Paul?
"Yeah."
Yes, George speaking.
"Yeah."
How's old Socks?
"Fair middlin'. How are you?"
Fine, fabulous. Well, what do you know?
"Oh, nothing much."
Where you been keeping yourself?
"Oh, just sticking around. What's up, Georgie?"
How about a little lunch? Say noon?
"Be all right with me, I guess. Club?"
Yeah. Meet you there at 12:30.
"All right. 12:30. So long, Georgie." 4. His morning was not sharply marked into divisions. Interwoven with correspondence and advertisement writing were 1,000 nervous details, calls from clerks who were incessantly and hopefully seeking 5 furnished rooms and a bath at $60 a month, advice to Matt Penniman on getting money out of tenants who had no money, Babbitt's virtues as a real estate broker, as the servant of society in the department of finding houses for families and shops for distributors of food, were steadiness and diligence. He was conventionally honest. He kept his records of buyers and sellers complete. He had experience with leases and titles, and an excellent memory for prices. His shoulders were broad enough, his voice deep enough, his relish of hearty humor strong enough to establish him as one of the ruling caste of good fellows. Yet his eventual importance to mankind was perhaps lessened by his large and complacent ignorance of all architecture save the types of houses turned out by speculative builders, all landscape gardening save the use of curving roads, grass, and 6 ordinary shrubs, and all the commonest axioms of economics. He serenely believed that the one purpose of the real estate business was to make money for George F. Babbitt. True, it was a good advertisement at Boosters' Club lunches and all the varieties of annual banquets to which good fellows were invited. To speak sonorously of unselfish public service, the broker's obligation to keep inviolate the trust of his clients, and a thing called ethics, whose nature was confusing, but if you had it, you were a high-class realtor, and if you didn't, you were a shyster, a piker, and a fly-by-night. These virtues awakened confidence and enabled you to handle bigger propositions, but they didn't imply that you were to be impractical and refuse to take twice the value of a house if a buyer was such an idiot that he didn't